The moment blank, these two god-tier online gamers arrived in Disboard, a world where games decide everything. They used the knowledge from their old world to become the kings of humanity, a race cornered by the other races. Now kings, and to solve humanity's problems of tiny territory and scarce natural resources, they aggressively expanded outward. Their campaign went fairly smoothly. They subjugated a flugel, won over an elf, and merged with the Werebeast Nation, the Eastern Union. Then, before Blank had decided which race to go after next, the Dampires and Siren came knocking on their own. Two races that, for various reasons, were on the brink of extinction. To save them, Blank and company came to the Siren capital to try clearing the game that had trapped them. But halfway through, Blank withdrew mid-match. They did so because they'd confirmed that this game's clear conditions weren't what they were told at the start. So, to find the real clear conditions, Blank's group split up. Before continuing with Blank's group's movements, let's first turn the camera to Karami. Basically, after Karami received Sora's memories, she and Fiel beside her had, for the time being, no contact with Blank. The reason is simple. What Sora wanted Karami to do was already in her head, splitting Elvengard from the inside. The story I'm about to tell is the game they went through while dividing the nation. We really should sit down and have a long, all-night talk about how we'll get along from now on. What Feel now faces is the noble Bolto, who thinks he's got a handle on Feel. For someone serving as the current deputy of the upper house to be trying to free the slaves? If you're not afraid of me exposing this, then of course you may refuse. Because abolishing the elves' slavery system would make elf society unsustainable. Feel and Karami's actions are themselves a crime. This Balto, an elf noble who hadn't appeared before, had gotten Feel's incriminating records from somewhere, letting him force Feel to play a game very common among elves. Destiny magic cards. The rules are simple. Each side randomly holds 22 cards, plays 2 each round, and different pairings produce different combination effects. Whenever your combination beats the opponent's, the cards launch a magical attack directly on the player, who must then rely on their own magic to block it. The final decision of victory isn't who won more rounds after the cards run out, but who first can't withstand the card's attacks and chooses to surrender. Generally, this game measures a caster's skill. A quadruple caster is first-rate, a triple caster is excellent, and Bolto is at the level of triple caster nearly quadruple. Well then, let's clearly declare what each of us stakes. I demand your freedom of life and your complete lifelong obedience to me. We demand that you forget about us and unconditionally, limitlessly assist us. I can understand Balto's demand. After all, who wouldn't want Feel? But regrettably, he'd always assumed Feel was a useless girl who could only become a double caster with assistance. You disgrace to the Nirvalins! You think you can beat me? I really wish this man were a bit sharper. Feel wasn't the only one fighting. On the other side, Karami was fighting too. Her opponent was Balto's butler, Fritz. Normally, an elf would never seriously play a game against a human, but Karami pointed out, Fritz used Balto's funds to make illegal drugs and even sold them to a neighboring country. Just saying this wouldn't convince Fritz, so Karami was also holding some of that drug. I'll tip off the authorities and ruin you. Understand now? Hurry up and challenge me to a game. You have no other way out. Hearing Karami's demand, Fritz secretly smirked, 'cause he'd long known things would go this way. And more importantly, the smuggling mastermind was actually Balto himself. Fine. Please finish quickly. The reason Fritz wanted it over quickly, besides feigning impatience with Karami, was mainly that he needed to hurry back to support Balto, who was dueling Feel not far away. Here are 3 looping poker pairs, KQ, QA, AK. We each draw one face down, then flip to decide the winner. I demand you destroy and forget the smuggling intel you've gathered. Fine. Then I demand you confess and testify. State everything you know, word for word. In Fritz's records, Feel was a washout who couldn't graduate and couldn't use spells without the assist stones on her hands and forehead. So Fritz figured stepping away from Balto a bit was no problem. Using clairvoyance. Against humans, a race that can't see through magic, Fritz used magic and saw that his own face-down card was an A, and Karami's was a K. Some fool thinks I'll swap cards. Rather than sending a woman's nutrients to her brain, sending them to her chest is more worthwhile. Though if she's both dumb and flat, there's no hope. After Fritz finished his jab, both flipped at once. Fritz's was an A, and Karami's was a Q. And you? Different from the card you peeked at. Surprised? It turned out the one playing Fritz was Fiel. She'd not only changed her appearance, but made Fritz misread her own card. In your case, where did your nutrients run off to? Your little guy doesn't seem too well developed either. Fritz lost to an opponent he thoroughly looked down on, which left him with no composure at all. No way. Then who's the one dueling Balto? A stupid question. Since Fiel was right here, the one dueling Balto would naturally be Karami. Karami, I've wrapped things up over here. Seeing these two reveal their true forms, Balto visibly wavered. This man wanted to declare the game void, to end his match with Karami. But Karami, who had set 2 cards and engineered this situation, of course wouldn't let her opponent off. Well then, I demand your freedom of life and your complete lifelong obedience to me. Even if he won this game, Balto could only get Karami. In contrast, what Karami offered was assist us, an unequal stake. Or rather, being outmaneuvered, which threw Balto off balance, and he carelessly got hit by Karami's cards. Nervalin, you venomous witch! How dare you deceive me! What's this about deceiving? How rude. You're the one who's been deceiving all along, aren't you? Then Feel casually spelled out Balto's whole plan, word for word. You're one move short, Nervalin. This me seems to have a poor memory, making him think Feel blocking a few attacks for Karami from afar counts as violating the covenants. When I confirmed the conditions, listen carefully, I explained the words we and us. GG. In the end, the means of leaving the game was sealed, forcing this fool to keep playing, and the result was that his power ran dry and he could only surrender in disgrace. Well, no helping it. Setting aside that Feel is a sextuple caster, in the card duel alone he was already toyed with by Karami. The number of times each side landed hits weren't even in the same class. Well then, Mr. Balto, please forget everything related to us and keep doing your illegal business as before. As for Mr. Fritz, you'll confess everything in half a month. Feel's group's plan was this: use the butler to expose Balto's misdeeds and get Balto arrested. After that, Balto's large trading enterprise would fall into Feel's puppet's hands. I'll pray for you. I hope your business prospers even more from now on. As Fritz recalled it, everything that had happened here vanished like smoke. In this match, Feel Nervalin used disguise magic and cognition interference magic on herself and Karami respectively. Just to disguise, she'd already deployed 4 spells, and mid-match, she had to defend Karami while faking the butler's cards. In other words, she cast 6 spells at once. To pull that off, there's no doubt Feel is a super first-rate caster. If she hadn't intended to help Karami and hidden her strength, then Fiel would surely have a brilliant future in the Elves Nation. Yet she still chose Karami. What a sweet, sweet Yuri. Because she knew Fiel's ability and feelings, Karami, facing any challenge, would subconsciously compare herself to blank. If it were them, they could win more. Too much unnecessary self-blame forced Fiel to remind Karami, we and them are both two as one. Don't try to do two people's work alone. What puzzled Fiel more was why Karami placed almost absolute trust in Sora's memories. The memories Mr. Sora entrusted to Karami? Are they his true memories? You can rest easy. The one who overrates Sora isn't me. It's you. Having seen Sora's memories, Karami knew. Sora's actually just a very clumsy, ordinary fool. Any human could reach his level. Done with Karami, let's look at Steph and Izuna. After being told by Sora to go find books last time, these two holed up in the king's secret library. But regrettably, facing thousands of books, plus the possibility that the book they're looking for doesn't even exist, Steph could only flip through them one by one, very inefficiently. Izuna beside her understood the Amanadi language, but couldn't read Amanadi's script, and would even hold books upside down. Since her only helper understood nothing, Steph could only have Izuna learn from scratch. This is the book I used to learn a foreign language back when I was a student. It uses a two-language matching game method. The moment Izuna heard the keyword game, she immediately grabbed the book and flipped through it. Flip, flip, flip. Maybe Izuna was a genius to begin with. In the 6 to 12 hours after she finished eating and Steph passed out, Izuna learned the Amanadi language. Not only that, she read quite a few books she found interesting. This is the smell of fish, this. No, wait. This is the smell of a siren, this. After reading some books Blank had read, Izuna discovered a book that smells of siren. Hey, why does Grandpa's book smell of siren? Who knows this? Either a siren touched it, or someone touched this book after touching a siren, this. Do you know when that person touched this book? To that question, Izuna couldn't answer. But when Steph asked whether Izuna could find books completed around the same time as this one, if I search seriously, I could probably manage this. Normally, that line would mean, with a bit more time, she could probably find them. But what Izuna meant was, the moment I enter Bloodbreak, I can find them instantly. So when Steph said, I'll make you your favorite dish, find the books in the meantime, Izuna excitedly pulled out all the books in a single instant. All done, Desu. Is the fish not ready yet, Desu? Can we go out to buy groceries together? Steph could only stall. Out on the street, the adults all shot Izuna hateful glares. Yet Izuna felt these reactions were normal, and the abnormal one was Steph. I like you, Izuna, so I unconsciously take your side. Also, though the adults were all unfriendly to Izuna, the Amanadi children weren't put off by a werebeast. We became friends by playing a game. Even though this world still has plenty of strife, this world has without a doubt changed because of Tet. After eating, Steph happened to notice a book, The Arrogant Princess's Treasure. Besides recording that story from the opening of Volume 4, most importantly, the late king had left this annotation beneath it. The sleeping queen of the sea fell into her slumber precisely because she read this tale. That queen, just like the princess in the fairy tale, was loved by everyone, and so she came to pursue the unknown, to pursue a love she couldn't obtain. Congratulations. Congratulations. And so, Steph found the hint for waking the queen one step ahead of Blank. Back to Blank. After settling the Flugels game, Blank rounded up all of Jabril's friends to search for books. Regrettably, even though they gathered a huge pile and compiled 19 different accounts about the Queen, the crucial condition to wake the Queen wasn't mentioned in a single one. In this dead end, Blank could only think, maybe from the very start, no one knew the condition? Having put in so much effort with no progress, Blank grew disheartened. Seeing her masters like this, Jabril decided to change the subject to help lift their mood. The topic Jabril brought up was, after the god of war died, Avantheim had kept chasing the scent of an old deus, trying to find its master. But because the scent it found was on the moon, which it couldn't reach, Avantheim could only gaze up at the moon and weep. This topic left Sora dejected, because even a phantasma understands love. The master's reaction made Jabril suddenly think of something, so she asked Sora to say to her, "Jabril, you useless thing, I don't need you anymore." A simple enough request, and Sora said it. And then, I don't know, are you gonna pile on too many weird attributes? Seeing her big brother's and Jabril's reactions, Shiro suddenly strung it all together. An unknown feeling, yearning. What Azrael couldn't find, Jabril found. The unknown, hope. After saying these things, almost the same key the late king had judged, Shiro declared she now knew the condition to wake the queen. So there are things Big Bro misjudges too. Shiro beating Sora in Sora's own domain made Shiro very happy and made Sora feel like a useless 18-year-old virgin trash shut-in dragging Blank down. Anyway, having found the answer and cross-checked it with Steph, Blank immediately rushed to the Siren Queen's chamber. This game is about to end. Shiro can't do it, only Big Bro can. All right, let's go, Shiro. After confirming what they do inside the dream, Blank's group returned to the dream once more. While the queen waited, bored out of her mind, for someone who could satisfy her to arrive, a thunderous piece of music suddenly rang out. Hello, sleeping one. Sorry to disturb you every time during your rest. We are Blank. Hello, visitors of my dream. I'm delighted you've come. Sorry, the real us isn't here. Since the real bodies weren't before the queen's voice couldn't reach Blank's ears. Meow? What? Puppets and other things falling from the sky? With the queen's scream, a mass of physically revolting puppets began raining down from above, along with a fully loaded, ready-to-go Jabril. All right, now begins the Make Me Fall in Love with You game. I'll be over there. Once you reach there, if you can talk me into loving you, the game ends. Blank's spot was a tall tower some distance from the queen. Normally, that distance isn't too far for the queen, but now she'd have to pass through a mass of terrifying puppets, as well as Flugel. Jabril, unleash your power to your heart's content. Since including the queen, even if everything's wiped out, it'll all respawn in a few seconds. What Sora meant to make the queen experience was a fully loaded Flugel. Not only that, to make the queen even more despairing, Blank set the scenario so that all the queen's friends and family are present. In other words, the situation was the queen had to watch her loved ones get struck by Jabril's magic, listen to their wails, and be endlessly cut to ribbons by Jabril. From here on, you'll get no aid at all, only face death, again and again. Let me see just how far you can struggle. After Blank finished this line, Jabril went on a rampage with 100% of her heaven's peak. Compared to the hell inside the dream, the Siren outside it, and Plum, watched what was happening inside quite happily. And Ino, who'd been returned, was held by Izunur, unable to grasp what was going on. Watching a dumb woman's misfortune feels great. Amira had originally opposed cutting off pain, but because the scenes in the dream were too hard to watch, Izunur's eyes were covered. As for the others, seeing Jabril's performance, they finally learned to sincerely thank the one true God. The seawater evaporated in the very first instant, leaving the queen to crawl across the parched ground. She couldn't breathe, and the sunlight was eroding her body. Though there was no pain, her strength was endlessly drained, and she could only approach her destination very slowly. Not knowing whether days or minutes had passed, the queen finally dragged herself into a tower with water. "All right, had enough fun? Get down on your knees and bow." By this point, the queen was furious and wanted to charm the person before her until even his brain melted. Hey, did you not hear the rules I stated? Make me fall in love? You can't even manage one sweet word? Sora's attitude made the queen think he was toughing it out, so she switched to another method to try to seduce him. "Yes, I'm sorry. I was too happy. That's why I was so rude."
"I want you. Please, answer these feelings of mine."
Had the target been an ordinary person, he'd surely have been forcibly brainwashed by the queen. But Sora... Ugh, no, I'm getting goosebumps. Sorry, can't do it. And honestly, you're not my type. Besides, the rule said make me fall in love, yet your first line was telling me to bow, and your second was sorry, saying the earlier stuff wasn't sincere. You're an online drama queen landmine. I can't believe people like you actually exist. Getting roasted like this, the queen was utterly stunned. She had no idea why her charm wasn't working. Finally I can say it. I'll vent the grudge on behalf of all those earlier people. Someone this old, still sleeping their head off and daydreaming what? Are you a fool? Who do you think you are? An idiot? Do you think it's a given that others treat you well? Kindergarten kids these days are way smarter than you. And do you even realize how long you slept? 800 years, and then 800 years? You don't actually think you're the heroine sleeping for ages waiting for her prince, do you? You're over 800 years old, you old hag. I said you're old just now, but even old age should have a limit. Aloof characters are my absolute favorite, but that's on the premise of having a brain. And the first thing I can't stand is that face of yours that says, any man will fall for me. A woman should know restraint. So-called sexiness only has meaning paired with modesty. Is that how you think? Someone asks you to strip, and you strip bare in an instant? As a woman, do you think that's right? Or are you the plays innocent normally, but the moment it's time to get down to business, takes off the clothes and glasses type? That idiot archetype with a romance aptitude below 20? If you think showing more is better, then don't tease. Just become a nudist, you half-baked thing. And why should I flatter a woman I don't even like? Just try thinking. It's only a waste of time and energy. Are you a fool? Rather than that, I'd sooner love a two-dimensional girl. More meaningful, better value, and neither my wallet nor my heart gets hurt. And one last thing. I don't know if that's a crystal or whatever, but you're only someone with charm because you rely on that thing. Honestly, your face rate's just above average, and among my companions, you're dead last. You should be able to figure that out just by looking in a mirror, you sponge for brains. That felt great. And with that, I'm ending the game. Bye-bye. Then Blank left the game without waiting for the queen's reply. Doing it to this degree, she should really be enraged, right? That's enough, right, Shiro? It turned out Sora himself didn't know why he was doing this. He was only following Shiro's instruction to properly infuriate the opponent. As the crystal shattered, the queen too broke free of the dream. Come on, come on. Because of the 10 covenants, you can't hit me. So impressive that one person could be this infuriating. Bro, no need anymore. Is that so? It was pretty fun, though. What no one expected was that the queen, mocked like this, actually, "I've been waiting for you all along, my beloved prince." Hearts appeared in the queen's eyes, and she flung herself at Sora's feet. It turned out that in the fairy tale, the treasure the poor man gave the princess was a short dagger. And what made the princess marvel was actually a beautiful death. Yes, it was really a story of a princess bound by desire and thus destroyed. The princess who read this tale focused not on being destroyed herself, but on the unknown. That is, a love she couldn't obtain. Put more plainly, she wished for a person who, no matter how much she pursued them, would absolutely never fall for her. So you're saying, even if I fall for her, she'll cool off precisely because she's loved? How can there be such a troublesome patient? Yes, I'm the patient, sorry. Bro, you hold all authority over that person. Step on her. Sure. Harder. So it's because there's someone here who slept 800 years and doomed us to extinction? Is that it? Did I really sleep 800 years? But in this game, as long as I don't fall in love with you, one hard stomp from you and it clears. Are you fools? The fool is you. Because of the 10 covenants, you can't do that anyway, you sponge for brains. Yes, I'm a fool. I'm a sponge. My lord, scold me some more. And so, this bizarre farce and tragedy came, for now, to an end with the Queen's awakening. Once everything was over, just as Blank could finally sleep peacefully, a person they didn't want to see approached the two of them. "Hi, Plum. What business do you have at this hour?" Sorry, well, are you here to tell us your true identity? I'm not one to bow easily to others, but I want to pay you my respects from the bottom of my heart. To think you truly never told a single lie to the very end and successfully led us on? Plum. No, the last male individual of the Dampiers. Young Plum. That's how I should address you, right? It turned out Blank had sensed Plum's true form and aim from the very beginning. First, when Plum asked Blank for help, Plum only said prepare a countermeasure and never asked Blank to wake the queen, which showed Plum knew this countermeasure couldn't wake her. Next, when Blank probed, why not do the surefire plan yourself? Plum answered, the last male Dampier is still young. At minimum, you need a male with reproductive ability. In other words, Plum only used someone's unstated assumption to answer why the Dampiers wouldn't do it themselves. Also, Plum never affirmed that love magic is a surefire plan, because whenever asked, is it A or B, Plum always answered, it's not B, which made Blank deeply suspicious. So, on the beach, Sora deliberately looked at the phone Shiro passed over and said, so even if it's not Big Bro, that works? A lie Sora deliberately misspoke, whose purpose was to convey to Miko beside them that Plum is lying. There's a trick. The phone's real content was those doubts I just mentioned. That you're trying to free the Dampiers is true. That you can use love magic is true. And you also know magic can't wake the queen. Under all these conditions, you still came to us for help. That means you believe we can help you find the real condition to wake her. Wow, you rate us pretty highly. But even seeing through it this far, we were still played by your strategy. No, we could only act that way. It's frustrating, but I can only describe it as impressive. This game's a draw, right? Then you're wrong. This game is my sole win. The queen staked her everything, not just her authority, but her obligations transferred to you too. What this meant was, Plum could now drink the blood of both of them. Wait, that's... So no matter how things unfold, only the Dampiers profit. Understand? Just as Plum was about to bite down... Strange. Why? Plum, bite. I'll repeat it as many times as you like. Plum, you actually set up a time bomb that auto-triggers if we win? I've played games this long, and this is the first time I've been so beautifully outplayed. In the last section of Volume 4, Part 2, when Sora said, "Clearing it gets the queen's everything," Plum deliberately lowered her head and said nothing, which showed Plum had known about this trap all along. Well then, let me tell you about our return gift time bomb too. Heard we plan to conquer all races? Sorry, that's where you got it wrong. We aren't taking anyone's game piece. So, while you were away, I told the queen this. Apart from the obligation to assist us, we're returning your race's game piece too. All of it. Exactly as it was. What the heck. With any strategy, one wrong first step, and you lose everything. You made just one ordinary mistake. You underestimated us too much. To think, even at this point, I still had a smug attitude. I never imagined you actually planned to challenge the one true God. Hearing Plum say this, Blink both laughed, because Plum had also seen through the way to conquer this world. This world could use more characters like you. This time, you were just one step short. Blank affirmed Plum, and Plum vowed to come again. Just as the mood was nice. By the way, Lord Sora, please let me lick the other foot. Good. Want a round two? Sure, bring it on any time, Dampier. Big Brother Plum's feet work too. If it's an exchange, Shiro's is off limits, but mine is fine. Sora wanted to trade his own sweat for Plum to cast love magic on him again, and the one Sora wanted to fall for was Shiro. A trivial matter. As the magic activated, Shiro said, "I like you, bro," to Sora. But, hey, Plum, still the same as usual. Nothing happened. What's going on? I see. So that's why the Queen's charm didn't work. Plum's magic defines a felt emotion as love. But after the spell, cognition didn't change. Plum and Shiro both understood what this meant. Only Sora himself hadn't a clue. Shiro, what is love? Don't know. The Shiro who said don't know had a reddened face. Looks like I've had a daughter. Huh? The Siren Queen? Here it comes. Seemed to have used just a single strand of Sora's hair to give birth to her and Sora's daughter. That's a daughter, but since she's a Siren, she probably can't leave the water. I'm agonizing over whether to go see her. Maybe this is fatherly love? A miracle. Fatherly love sprouting in a virgin? Just as Sora was still agonizing, Papa! Oh, my daughter. Your first words won't happen to be baby, will they? And so Sora was decked to the ground by Shiro again. The reason this little girl can appear here is the magic Plum cast, so if she leaves the water too long, she'll still die. Hey, hurry and bring a water tank! She's gotta have water to drink, right? That works too? Watching Sora's expression, Jabril added this line to her scripture. Master, a virgin pregnant. Over on Kurami's side, they received the intel that Blank has already won over the Dompiers, Siren, and Flugel. This intel was crucial to them because it meant that the great powers, the elves and the old deists, would also start formally guarding against humanity and might even launch an offensive. Just barely made it. Our rushing the schedule paid off, I suppose. In short, they seem to have completed a whole series of moves before the elves formally grew wary of humanity. And from here on, whatever they set out to do, they'd advance together, just like Blank. That game was won, sure, but it was an unnecessary game. That said, those people still challenged the game. All in all, because of that idiotic game, humanity nearly became the elves' prey. And though Sora turned the tables with a counter-scheme, they knew full well just how big the risk had been. By the way, Ino, what do you make of that man, Sora? Honestly, I don't know. That man may be a swindler, but he can't tell lies. Even I wanted to give up on you, yet that man never gave up on saving you. A man who follows through on his own convictions. Won't you try believing in him? If you could reclaim your dream once more. Sora, show me then the continuation of the dream I couldn't see. As for what Miko's dream is, well, to be continued next volume, of course. This in Volume 5, Part 2.